reviewed by 850 so people and has received 4.5 out of 5 stars. So thank you so very much, Chris. I'd also like to thank everyone who's with us today and has been with us in previous sessions. Your dedication to our young people is immense, and I sincerely applaud your commitment and your efforts. Thanks again for joining us. I'm going to turn things over to Chris. You may experience a slight delay as we transition this presentation.
All right, I'm on. Hey folks, I'm trying out a new webcam here, so I thought you could like to see that this truly is Chris Dressler presenting and not Sheldon Cooper. If you're expecting to see Sheldon Cooper here, we'll have a few pictures of him, but he's not actually here today. So let's get started here. Mr. Computer, please. Thank you. All right, so as always, feel free to download a copy of this PowerPoint. I always post all of my PowerPoints, and not just the ones I've done for the training center, but everything that I do for the last several years is up on our website at ncperkins.org. Click on the presentations link. Nona always posts these to the training center website as well, and she posts the video. Feel free to use any or part of my presentations. If it can help get someone on a path towards a rewarding career, then you can take and use anything that I have to give. I've documented the information sources in the notes section of each slide under the PowerPoint to allow you to further research anything that you see here. I hope you've seen the TV show The Big Bang Theory. One of the lead characters is Dr. Sheldon Cooper, a theoretical physicist who works at a research university. And though the TV network has never confirmed this, Sheldon exhibits many of the characteristics of a mild form of autism, which used to be called Asperger's syndrome. I started watching the show because a coworker said that there was a guy on TV just like me. Well, he's not exactly like me, but I do believe I get the jokes and some subtle references that others may not. Sometimes it's as if they followed me around and created a character based on many of my actions. I think my wife likes to watch the show so she can try to figure me out too. A similar character is Dr. Spencer Reed from the TV series Criminal Minds. He's part of a crime-solving team where they all value the strengths of the team members, and they all care for each other like a big family, actually in some cases better than most families. Dr. Reed's strength is knowing stuff. He's definitely not the go-to person to deal with the public. But unlike The Big Bang Theory, where Sheldon's unusual character is often held up for ridicule, well, it is a comedy after all. In this show, Dr. Reed, though a little quirky, is taken quite seriously and is a valuable member of the team. Another show with some similar characters is Scorpion, which is like a group of geniuses doing Mission Impossible work. This is Walter O'Brien and Ralph Dineen. They're not necessarily autistic, but exhibit some of the traits. Both are socially awkward, as is the rest of the team. But you can see that over time, their friends and colleagues have helped them become much more social. If it were only this easy with each of the youth with whom we work, but nobody has an individual owner's manual like this one to which you can refer. And that makes the job of training more challenging and even more rewarding. We have to get the youth to overcome their apparent challenges and help get them on track towards a productive citizenship. We've talked about this before. It's hard to define normal when we're talking about youth and their families. I thought my family was normal until I grew up and started meeting other families. And then you start to question whether anybody is truly normal. Who remembers Raymond Babbitt from the movie Rain Man? The character Raymond Babbitt is an autistic savant. Not all people with autism are savants. Savant meaning that the person possesses a profound capacity or ability that far surpasses the average person. Raymond Babbitt was great with math and spatial awareness, but who would not be the best choice for the greeter at Walmart. What we used to call Asperger's syndrome is now part of the autism spectrum disorder. People like Raymond Babbitt, the Rain Man, have an obvious disability. Many folks on the autism spectrum do not appear different from anyone else. It is referred to as autism spectrum because each person can be somewhere along the spectrum, from barely diagnosable to quite disabling. We used to use the term Asperger's syndrome to describe someone with a mild case of autism, but that term is now obsolete. Autism has its roots in early brain development. Signs of ASD, or autism spectrum disorder, emerge between 2 and 3 years of age. Asperger's syndrome is now part of the autism spectrum disorder. 1 in 68 American children have autism. It is 4 to 5 times more common among boys than girls. And there are over 3 million people in the United States with autism, and each individual with autism is unique. Your job as a youth worker is not to diagnose medical conditions, but to work with what you have. For the rest of this presentation, I'll be talking about some of the common characteristics or indicators of people with a mild form of autism, but these characteristics could always be something else. We will not be looking at how to deal with youth with autism. We'll be looking at coping strategies for some specific indicators that may or may not be autism. If the youth is still in high school and they have some kind of identified disability, they should have an IEP, or an individual education plan, where experts set up specific learning objectives and create ways for the student to learn, to deal with the disability, and to develop ways to overcome the disability so it does not get in the way of learning. If the student with whom you're working is still in high school, as a youth services provider, you might be able to sit in on the IEP meetings, which will help you to see how you can help the student overcome his or her disability. It's much harder when there's no history upon which to build. Also, vocational rehab should have people trained in ASD, so you might check with them as well. People are unpredictable. In many cases, the social awkwardness is not really caused by the people, but by an overstimulation of the senses caused by the environment. A person could be overstimulated by sights, sounds, smells, other sensory information. Background sounds like working in a cubicle, open windows, distant telephones, air conditioners, elevators, computers humming, any sound. Most people subconsciously tune out the background sounds and focus their hearing on the specific main sounds. But for some, all of the sounds are in the foreground, which makes it hard to focus on anything. Likewise, blinking lights, fluorescent lights, some computer monitors, windows, riding on a bus can all create visual distractions. Every visual image is in the foreground. Most people subconsciously ignore the unimportant visual images and focus only on the main visual images. Smells of food, mold, animals can be a distraction. If it's a smell that's pleasing, then it would be hard to concentrate on anything else. I think most people can understand that when there's a smell of chocolate in the air. All of these distractions can keep people from concentrating on the task at hand and completing their work. Can you eliminate any distractions in your activities or in your environment? Is there a quiet room where this person could go? Ensure that this room is never seen as punishment, but rather a safe place to escape the distractions and recharge their personal batteries before rejoining the group. Small talk is stressful for some. Structured small talk is a way to introduce the art of small talk. You might give everyone a specific thing to discuss, like describe your hobby or your favorite color. And then friends. Introverts like Sheldon typically have a small number of friends, but they're usually very deep friendships. Extroverts typically have lots of friends, some deep friendships, but lots of shallow or medium depth friendships. Extroverts seem to like to make new friends, whereas introverts find friend-making an unpleasant chore. For the introverts, it takes effort to keep the friendship. Once on the Big Bang Theory TV show, Sheldon needed to make friends with a new person so he could have access to a specific piece of scientific equipment. Because of this, he felt he had to break up with one of his current friends. For some, it's like juggling balls in the air. A good juggler can add more balls to the mix and keep juggling, but many introverts can handle only a handful of friends. Adding more friends can be very stressful. And for someone like Sheldon, there's a process to making friends. As you see in the algorithm he created that you see here, this is his flowchart for how to make a friend. For most folks, activities like making a new friend can happen spontaneously, while for others, there needs to be a plan and a process for everything. For some, there's safety in feeling that everything is orderly and in its place. Others don't seem to care. Real torture would be putting an introvert in a room full of people he does not know without an agenda. Just because someone does not display empathetic behavior does not mean that they are not empathetic. It could be that they just do not know how to express their emotions in the way that you or the public expects. Some might have an impaired nonverbal behaviors in areas such as eye contact, facial expression, posture, and gesture. Some might be able to show a theoretical understanding of other people's emotions. However, they might have difficulty acting on this knowledge in a fluid real-life situation. People can be very unpredictable, especially when it comes to feelings and emotions. And some people thrive on predictability, so for that reason they stay clear of contact with people. Some youth may seek out routine, like a favorite meal or restaurant where they feel at home or at peace. The small routines throughout the day bring a sense of normalcy to an otherwise unpredictable day. Be aware of youth who might prefer a set routine. If you need to move a regular activity to a new date or a new location, you need to make sure these youth know in advance so they can prepare. Even moved furniture can be a problem. Though adding a little variety can spice up a program, some folks count on their sense of normalcy. Several times a week, I'll have a turkey sub at Subway. It's my way of finding solace in an otherwise hectic week. It's not the best sandwich in the world, but it's something I can count on being consistent and predictable experience. I try to go after the big lunch rush when it's a little quieter, with less distractions. And recently, my regular Subway restaurant moved the restaurant across the street to a new location. It took a while, but I'm finally used to it. Well, that was actually a couple of years ago, and here I am still talking about it. While on the topic of self-disclosure, the cereal I've eaten for breakfast for the last 35 some odd years was just discontinued in September. I've estimated that I've eaten over 5,000 boxes of the same cereal. My last stash of this cereal ran out last week. So now it's harder for me to start my day without my familiar routine. It might take me the next 50 years, but I will get over it someday. Maybe. I always say that I don't like change because it jingles in my pocket when I walk. I don't like change because I like knowing things are the way they are. I truly like a predictable world. Unfortunately, the world is in a state of flux with constant changes. The only thing that is truly constant in the world is change. In order to accept change, we first need to trust the person who is leading us to that change. You have to first gain the trust of the youth with whom you are working before you can expect them to try anything new. Sheldon finds comfort in this orderly, predictable world. When change occurs, it takes some time to alter his standard routines. Provide a safe environment in which to assimilate. Explain everything up front so there'll be no surprises. But some folks like surprises. Even Sheldon likes the surprise endings to sci-fi movies and comic books. But those are not surprises that directly impact his daily life. And some folks need a lifeline. A lifeline could be a hand signal, a facial expression, maybe a special word like stop. that indicates the person is ready to stop trying the new activity. Always reassure that we'll try it again later. Don't let this be the end. Always leave it open for an opportunity to try again. I will find a replacement cereal, and I will like it. It's just going to take lots of time to embrace it as part of my regular routine. Wouldn't it be great if everyone wanted to follow the rules? Some always seem to follow the rules. In fact, in a new or stressful situation, they might ask, "What do I do?" because they don't want to do it wrong. Abstract situations where there are no defined procedures are hard on some people. You might help the youth see the abstract situation as a problem to solve. But people can make the problem harder, since people are not concrete and often are unpredictable. You people drive me crazy sometimes. But these kind of youth typically will not run afoul of the law unless they're in a situation where they're misunderstood. We talked about the legal challenges facing our youth in the webinars a few months ago. Make sure your youth are familiar with the common societal traps and know the legal consequences. They might be gullible, and the bad kids might try to get them in trouble by convincing them it's the right thing to do. Don't assume that everyone has received the same right versus wrong speech from their parents. You might be the one that helps them to see the true difference. Some folks are afraid of failure. They might not want to participate in a new activity until they figure out a way to win or to at least perform flawlessly. Traditional schooling has possibly programmed them to think that everything is graded and grades mean a lot, and the first time you try something might generate a failing grade that will stay with you the rest of your life. Somehow we have to let folks know that the goal of the game is not to win, but to have a good time. Failures in life should be expected. Tell them that you don't expect everyone to get it right the first time. We should learn from our failures. The important thing is how to overcome your failures and how to do better in the future. Thomas Edison, while trying to invent the electric light bulb, found thousands of ways to create a light bulb that did not work. We have to focus on the successes and learn from the failures. We should forgive failures and let them know that they can try again. And more importantly, that whether they succeed or fail, that you still care about them. Some may be quick to point out errors, not in meanness or a feeling of superiority. They're just pointing out something that's incorrect. They might even correct you in the middle of a speech on using an improper term. If you refer to a lectern as a podium, they might be quick to correct you at an inappropriate time. Or they might go off on a tangent and expound on the etymology of the word podium and how it got to where it is now used more incorrectly than correctly, by stating that you stand on a podium and lecture behind a lectern. When you want to say podium, think about the podiatrist, the foot doctor. In Greek, podion is the diminutive of the word for foot. But I digress, which for some is normal. But at least I got my point across in this little vocabulary lesson. And I'll try not to admonish you in public if I hear you using the wrong term. Enough of that, let's redirect. Sometimes you can't just say stop or say they are wrong. A big stop sign does not help someone who cannot stop. They have to be moving somewhere in some direction. Somehow you have to climb into the conversation and get the youth back on track with the current conversation. Whether someone is going off track in a conversation or off track in the physical sense, you have to walk alongside and join their conversation or walking path first, and then gently redirect them back on the path that you prefer. Sometimes you need a big sign like this to help direct, or you need to find out what motivates this youth and use that to help direct. Like we talked about in the Passion webinar last month. And then a non-auditory youth may be off target in a conversation and you might not even know it. You might refer to this as daydreaming or just think that the youth is aloof, but rather they may be taking time to process information. The important thing here is to walk with them first until you can redirect them. Do not rush into anything. Questions that can be answered with yes or no should be avoided. Anyone who does not have all the details about an event or has had time to process the information might automatically say no. Some folks need time to process the information by themselves and come up with a procedure that works for them. It's better to get them to think a while and ask questions rather than immediately committing to an answer. If the youth is not ready to do something, don't take no for an answer. Let them know that you'll keep this open and let them try later, maybe even years later. Accept a maybe answer or even an I'll think about it. They might regret saying no and feel that after taking time to process the information, they have no way to change the no to a yes. But a maybe can always be changed later to a yes. Sometimes folks talk a lot about one subject and never make a point. It's as if they're reading directly from the encyclopedia. How do you channel the love of a certain topic into the current conversation? Sheldon will talk incessantly about trains. Knowing that, how can you incorporate trains into your current activity? Some folks have trouble with literal interpretations of common phrases, like the stock exchange being referred to as a bear market. Well, I don't see any bears. Or to pay an arm and a leg for something. Is that why some folks are missing arms and legs? Why would anyone with a broom sweep someone off their feet? That's just wrong. And why do we park on a driveway and drive on a parkway? That just doesn't make sense. And why are there no dogs and ponies at a dog and pony show? Some have trouble understanding the double meaning of words that come with humor, irony, and sarcasm. How can you make half a sandwich? Or a preoccupation with a single subject. Sheldon really likes trains, and we'll talk forever about trains. I like giraffes and old Econoline vans. If you find someone that's an expert on an esoteric subject, see how you can relate that subject to what you're trying to do. How do we relate the youth's favorite subject to what you're trying to accomplish? Sheldon Cooper has a personal spot on the couch where he always sits. The TV show over-dramatizes this a bit, but the reality is that having a personal spot or home base is important for some. The spot will be different for each location, but there will always be some place to act as a home base. When the environment is overstimulating or the situation gets stressful, the person knows that they have a spot where they can go and feel comfortable. If someone asks where to sit for a new situation or activity, the correct answer might not be just sit anywhere. You could start with that, which allows most of the folks to take a place. But for those who seem confused, you could then ask if you can help them find a place to sit. Wherever it is, that will be their home base throughout the duration of the activity or the duration of being in that particular location. When taking a group to a new location, look for the folks standing near the door looking to pick out their spot. Some may need help with this. In an unstructured social situation where there's no planned agenda, or at meal times, when things get stressful, they need to know there's a safe place to which to return. And how do you help the other youth understand that this person could be hopelessly lost if someone else is sitting in their spot? Helping others to understand the situation without criticizing this individual. Does everyone have some kind of disability where they can relate that theirs is different, but just as important? Autism Speaks is a great organization that has lots of materials about working with folks who exhibit the traits that we've been discussing. I'm not saying that you need to diagnose your youth, but if they exhibit some of these traits of autism, like we've been talking about today, you might find some helpful hints on their website. Their employment toolkit might help get some youth on the road to a job. I've included the web link in the notes section under this slide. They also have a separate guide for the parents as well as another guide just for the employers. The employer handbook might help if you're trying to place a hard-to-place new worker. Even if the youth exhibits just one of the traits we've been discussing and do not have autism, you still might find some really helpful information here. This toolkit has lots of information about getting employment that could really apply to anyone. So you might want to check that out. Before I conclude the presentation today, I'm going to pause here to see if anyone has any questions. I do have a few more slides, but first I want to know if you have any questions before I end. Usually by this time, most of the audience is kind of overwhelmed and just need a break to digest what I've said. And remember, you can download the PowerPoint and use it however you can. Hey, Nona, do we have any questions out there?
I don't have any just yet, Chris, but let me remind everyone that questions are submitted via the question box, which should be located on the panel on the right-hand side of your screen. So if you have any questions, go ahead and get those submitted now.
All right, I'm going to go out on a limb and put my webcam back on. Hey, everybody. Now you've got a face that you can send your questions to, so bring them on. Send me some questions here.
Chris, I wanted to mention that we're joined by 70 workforce professionals from around the state this
70.
morning.
That's a whole lot of pressure on me now to make sure that I do this right. 70 people.
Yep. You're doing fantastic, though. I've really enjoyed today's or commentary. So we do have one question coming in. Here they come.
Okay.
Okay, so the first one here is from Frank. Do autistic individuals do better at any particular academic program or job?
That's funny. I'm laughing because that's Frank down the hall. So should I just say, yeah, like the job I have right now? There's some interesting research that's been going on recently where we're getting a lot of folks with autism into computer programming jobs. Folks that are autistic and even people that have some of the traits of autism and maybe not diagnosed, if they're really good at processes and procedures and things that got to be right, well, computer programming is great. Okay, I do a lot of that here, computer programming, where I'm making sure that every last little detail is right. That's definitely something to look at. We do have some programs at some of our community colleges that are typically referred to as career college, where folks with special needs, not specifically autistic, but it could be any other type of maybe some type of an intellectual disability, getting them to programs where they maybe become an assistant in a restaurant where they work in the back, maybe washing dishes, or maybe it can be an assistant in a auto shop where they're just running, collecting parts for the mechanics or something like that. Anything where there's a routine. That's typically the thing with autism is they need a routine where they like to follow a certain set procedure, and they can do that over and over again. Or if you saw the movie The Rain Man, counting cards in Las Vegas could be a job, but that's frowned upon out there in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I think they consider that breaking the law, which we covered in some of our previous webinars.
Sure.
So I've got another question here for you, Chris. This one comes from Jessica. Actually, it's more of a comment than a question. She's curious if you've seen the movie The Accountant.
I have not seen that movie, and doing the research for this presentation, I came across that. So that's something that I want to look at. I have not seen that, the Accountant. But apparently there is a person, a lead character in there with at least the traits of autism.
Okay. I'll have to look into that myself. Okay, so Eric is wondering if there is a group or organization that you're aware of that helps place those students or graduates having autism spectrum disorder in jobs.
Well, as I said, we have Autism Speaks is a great organization. I think it's autismspeaks.org, but you just look that up. They have really good information out there for families, for the actual person, for the employers, for everybody, and a lot of it is employment specific. But as far as an organization that's helping, if it's a college that has any type of outplacement program, which they should have, they should be doing that. If they have a career college at their school, which is, as I said, is for people with a intellectual disability, they might have some special places out there where they know that there are employers that will want to hire people. Just doing the research out there on the web, search for employability skills and see what you can find. There are studies out there of people that have been employed. There are businesses that do employ, and you might be able to get some help from them or be able to point a new employer towards another employer to say, well, look, they've hired people and it's worked out well for them, so can you give it a try? So I don't know of any specific organizations. And there might be somebody locally. I mean, your local chamber commerce may help. You might have some local nonprofit or church organization that might be able to help.
Some good leads there, Chris. Thanks so much. We've got another question coming in here from Lori. Do you have any suggestions for accommodations at the post-secondary level for students with autism that may be different from what we consider in traditional accommodations?
Well, I think the big thing is to get everybody on a career pathway and to work with the student. As in high school, we try to get everybody to do interest assessments and find out what their skills are, and take courses in high school, especially like career technical education, find out what skills you might have, and then to help them plan a career pathway that's going to take them to employment. We need that for everybody, and everybody's got different needs, different skills, different abilities. So it really shouldn't be a lot different for anybody else. If they do have an identified disability, that there's people in the school working with them, then that's something that should also be shared when they get to college. Interesting thing is, if you have a identified disability like autism in high school, there are people that work with you, but when you get to college, it's up to you to self-report. There's nobody checking you on the first day. You know, when I used to work in a school and I'd get my roster, there'd be a little star next to a couple of the names, and I'd go to another list and find out what their special needs were, whether they needed extra time on a test or whatever. For me, teaching industrial arts, most of the time those special needs didn't matter in my course, because they mainly only affected them when they were in the core classes. But it's something like that. When you get to college, that teacher doesn't know you have a special need unless you say, I have a special need and need more time on a test, or I have a special problem with whatever. That's something we're encouraging students to please let those teachers know. Teachers are there to help. And if you got a special need, they're going to work with you to help overcome that, whatever that special need is.
Great response there, Chris. Thanks so much. This next question comes from my friend Kelly. Kelly's curious if a version of the IEP can be completed at the community college level through the special populations instructor, similar to how the public schools complete the process.
It's possible, and I've been talking with some folks in my building here who work with the students, and especially students with any kind of a special need. There are programs in place. There's not going to be something specifically like an IEP. There's not going to be a committee of educators that are going to be looking after your best interests. So it's really you as the student, and possibly your parents, coming in to help gather all this information and find all the right people to talk to. But there are people that work specifically with teachers to help them adapt curriculum maybe to your special needs. Usually if you go to the media center, they might have a special program there that will help read a book to someone who's maybe deaf. And they've got different adaptations or things that they can do, but they may not even be aware. So I think it's really you sitting down with somebody at the college to say, look, here's what my special need is. And hopefully most people at that point, hopefully you've already self-identified your needs and have come up with a way to get over that need or get around that disability. But it's up to you to be the person in charge.
Great response there, Chris. We really appreciate it. I think I've got just one last one for you, and this one comes from Damie. And actually, Damie's posing this question to not only you, Chris, but it looks like the remainder of the audience as well. He's curious, are you all connecting with the North Carolina Applied Behavioral Analysis Organization? They've been an excellent resource for him with creating transition plans specific to support youth in a transition and helping with alternative accommodations. He's just wondering if this resource is widely used or even known about.
It's not something that I'm familiar with, but then this whole area is something that is not something that's on my job description and not something that I usually dwell on a lot. It's just that I share some of the indicators with Dr. Sheldon Cooper, so decided to do the research, and I have over time worked on ways to overcome whatever limitations I have. But if there's a group out there, NC Applied Behavioral Analysis, that's great, and that's something that they probably, the folks here in the building that work more with people with special needs, probably know about that and probably work with them. So, Alexia, your next question talks about that also.
Yeah, thanks, Damie, for sharing that resource. Casey says that she has used an ABA Tech in local schools, and she loved the applications. She's wondering if it would benefit local community colleges.
That's a good question, and there should be people at your college that are working with the students. And up here we have Daniel. What's Daniel's last name? Alvarado. Daniel Alvarado, because with an A. He's the person up here who would be working on those kind of issues with people at your colleges. So, and I'm not too familiar with that process. But that's great. It's great that there are people know what's going on out there.
Yeah, thanks for sharing these resources, everybody, and thanks for the great questions. I think that wraps up our questions. Chris, I'm going to go ahead and pass things back over to you and let you finish us out.
Let me finish this out here. Let me get PowerPoint back up here again. All right, there we go. So the first thing to announce is that this is the last webinar for now. It's been a fun series doing these webinars this year. Been fun working with Nona and the gang over there at the NC Works Training Center, and I hope to get together with you all again in the near future, and maybe I'll see you sometime in the near future at the next NC Works Partnership Conference or the NCTA, the North Carolina Employment Training Association Conference, which is a similar conference in the spring. So keep your eyes open for that. In the meantime, I wish you all great success in helping the youth of this state become productive citizens. The main takeaway today is that everyone is different, and that's okay. Some choose to be different, and some are born that way, but they're all normal. As an educator, this is hard because we're trying to educate en masse, which is why we try to group by ability level, like separating folks by math ability. But everybody's different, and we have to teach them all differently. We have to match the learning plan or a career pathway to that individual person. We all learn differently. We don't need to label folks, but we do need to be aware when someone is different, has special different needs, and thus we do something different with them to help them succeed. Some folks take a little longer to learn. Some folks have a great skill in one area but lack other, maybe seemingly basic skills. How can we get everyone ready for a career and a productive life? We as a society have to stop focusing on our differences. I'm alluding to ignoring the politicians, and start focusing on our similarities, focusing on all of us appreciating the special skills and limitations of each other, and all working together towards a common goal. I may not have given you all the answers today, but at least I hope you are thinking about the next time you run into different, and take the time to stop and think about what you can do next. So thank you all very much for tuning in today. Hope to see you again in the near future.
Thanks again so much, Chris, and thanks everybody for joining us. Just want to remind you all that an evaluation will be sent out. In that email with the evaluation, which I hope you'll complete, will also be a copy of today's PowerPoint. This session has been recorded, so we will send that out and make that available to you and all of your colleagues just as quickly as we can. This wraps up this series, and we hope that you've enjoyed it. We've certainly enjoyed putting it together for you. Thanks so much, and have a great day, everybody.